Okay, this is how you start. This is how you start. And I'm going to show you 3 different methods. Okay? This is the messy method, if you haven't noticed. It's very messy. Okay, these are all just started. I just worked on them last night. This has no blending at all. Just this. No blending. This is what it looks like. So you guys can know already, giving you a sneak preview so you don't have to like experiment. This is a mixture of those two. Okay? But no matter which way you decide to go with this, you're going to start like this. Okay? This is called mapping it out. So the first thing I do is I look at my picture and I put everything into boxes. This wine glass is a square. Do you see how it's a square? Okay. And I cut it in half. I cut the square in half. By cutting it in half, I ensure that this side is equal to this side. That's how our eyes see things. If you just draw it, you're going to have it lopsided. Okay? Then I take my bottle, which is also just a rectangle. See how it's just a rectangle? That's all it is. So the first thing I do is figure out how big is this rectangle next to this square. This is also a rectangle because it can go all the way down. The grapes, I contour. Contour the grapes. So what does that mean? That means this outline is the most important thing that they create. Then I look at negative space. This is a little tiny triangle, and it's one of the most important pieces of information in the entire drawing. Do you see why? It tells me how far away this bottle is from this wine glass. So it's a map, right? So I'm going to map it out, and then I look here and I go, how far down, where does this hit? Where does this hit? Bottom of that hits there, and this hits here. And since we're drawing from photographs, it's really, really easy. If you're drawing from life, it would be harder, okay? Because then you have to measure it with your eye. But now you can literally just go across with your photograph, and I don't mind if you draw, and you could just draw a line, okay? And you can see, where does this glass hit? Look, this glass hits halfway through the bottle, right? So that is the mapping out. That's the information. We'll be coloring in anything until this is correct. Because if you start over here and you start valuing your grapes and you make that gorgeous, shiny, pretty grape with that highlight on it and that core shadow in there and the bounce light, and it's in the wrong spot, you're not going to want to move it, and you won't. You won't move it, okay? So you have to do this first. Everything, and then I correct this. So you raise your hand, I correct this, then you move on, okay? And we can talk more about that, but everything is a shape. Even the grapes is a square. You see it? Or a rectangle. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the different ways, and this is where you get your freedom, your choices. Okay, so we have vine, we have charcoal, and you can use a pencil. Can you see how I used a pencil? Graphite, this is graphite pencil. Please make your scaffolding, I call this a scaffolding, light. This is messy, right? It's painterly. It looks like a painting, and it's going to end up more like a painting than a drawing. Do you see that? And how I started is I blocked everything in solidly with vine. Even the background, I can get really messy, right? Which is fun. Then I can take my eraser and I can pull out the lights, right? I have a lot more to work with here. Do you see how I have a lot to work with? Because everything on my paper is a value. So now I can really pull my lights out, right? And I can push my darks. Versus this drawing, which is more of a drawing. This is going to be more of a painting kind of feel. This is a drawing, okay? Now, I did everything with this, every value. I can push it, but guess what I can do now? I can do the opposite. I can take my vine and I can put it on top of this, and it has a different feel, and it will look more like this, okay? And remember, you have your smudge stick too, okay, your smudger. So a lot of this can be smudged around, and you can same, but but just with this. And this one, I started like this, and then I started to push my vine on top. I can go back and forth. So I want you to sit with your reference next to you, your picture where you can see it as much as possible, and start here, and I'll walk around with tracing paper and make sure it's accurate before we move on.